Imagine you were sitting in a perfectly clean, white room. The air is still, the light is soft, and there is an overwhelming sense of order. You have spent your entire life curating this room, making sure every surface is polished, every object is in its proper place. This room is the person you present to the world, calm, rational, kind, ambitious. It is your carefully constructed identity, your mask of acceptability. But in the profound silence of this perfect room, you hear a sound. A faint rhythmic scratching coming from beneath the floorboards. At first, you ignore it. It's nothing. A mouse, perhaps, the house settling. You turn up the music of your daily distractions, the endless scroll of social media, the demanding schedule, the constant pursuit of the next goal. But the scratching continues. Sometimes it's a low growl, sometimes it's a frantic, desperate clawing. On your worst days, in the dead of night when all distractions fade, you hear a voice whispering through the floorboards. It whispers the things you dare not think. It celebrates the failure of a rival. It feels a flash of contempt for a loved one's weakness. It fantasizes about walking away from all your responsibilities and burning your perfect white room to the ground. This is the great unsettling paradox of the modern self. We are told from our first breath to be good, be positive, be strong, be better. We are handed a chisel and a block of marble and instructed to carve ourselves into a flawless statue, an idealized version of a human being. We spend our lives chipping away at the unacceptable parts, the anger, the envy, the laziness, the lust, the fear. We discard these jagged, dark pieces into the basement of our minds and lock the door. And the more perfect the statue on the main floor becomes, the more we feel like a fraud, because we can still hear the scratching from below. We live in constant, low-grade terror that one day the floorboards will splinter and the thing we have locked away will crawl out into the light, exposing us for the monsters we secretly fear we are. This thing in the basement, this dark twin, this disowned self, is what the psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow. It is the repository for every part of ourselves we have been taught to be shameful, unworthy, or sinful. It is not inherently evil. It is simply everything we are, but have decided we should not be. It is the untamed wilderness of our own nature. And the single greatest lie we have ever been told is that we must conquer it, kill it, or banish it forever. This advice, whispered from every corner of our self-improvement culture, is the source of a devastating, unwinnable civil war waged within the borders of our own soul. The constant effort to suppress your shadow is the reason you feel so chronically exhausted. It's why you can meditate for an hour and still feel a surge of irrational rage in traffic 5 minutes later. The energy it takes to hold down this immense, vital part of yourself is astronomical. It leaves you anemic, a pale and polite version of the vibrant, powerful being you were meant to be. Furthermore, a shadow that is not acknowledged and owned does not simply disappear. It gets projected. When you refuse to see the anger in yourself, you see it everywhere in others, and the world becomes a landscape of hostile, aggressive people. When you deny your own capacity for laziness and incompetence, you become ruthlessly critical of the minor failings of your colleagues and family. We turn other people into caricatures of our own disowned darkness, hating them for the very things we cannot face in ourselves. We create scapegoats to carry the burden of our own unexamined sins. The result is a life of profound inauthenticity. We walk through the world as half people, carrying a polished, hollow statue, terrified that someone will hear the scratching from within. We feel stuck, stagnant, and confused, wondering why all our positive affirmations and relentless efforts towards self-betterment only leave us feeling more empty. But what if the problem isn't the thing in the basement? What if the problem is the lock on the door? What if the scratching isn't an attack, but a summons? What if the monstrous voice is not a demon, but a guide, a teacher, trying to deliver a message you desperately need to hear? We have been taught to seek teachers on mountaintops, in ancient texts, in halls of wisdom. But what if your greatest, wisest, and most transformative teacher has been locked in your own cellar this whole time, waiting patiently for you to stop fighting and simply listen? What if the path to wholeness is not a relentless ascent into the light, but a courageous descent into your own beautiful and terrifying darkness? What knowledge is hidden in the parts of you that you fear? And what power will be unleashed when you finally have the courage to turn the key, open the door, and face the forgotten half of your own soul? The reason we are terrified of the scratching beneath the floorboards is that we have been systematically taught that our wholeness is a monstrosity. The hidden problem is not the existence of the shadow, but the cultural and psychological conspiracy that has convinced us to amputate half of our own soul and call the bleeding stump perfection. This isn't a personal failing. It is the result of a deep-seated philosophical error and a societal conditioning so pervasive that we mistake it for reality. At the heart of this internal schism is Carl Jung's profound insight. The shadow is born the moment a child is told, "Don't be angry, nice girls don't do that," or "boys don't cry." In those moments, the child learns a devastating lesson. A part of my authentic, spontaneous self is unacceptable. Love and approval are conditional upon my hiding this part away. And so, the great repression begins. We start to build the persona, the good, acceptable mask, and everything that doesn't fit this mask is shoved into the shadow. This isn't just about our dark impulses like rage or envy. The shadow also becomes home to our disowned positive traits. A child in a family that values intellectualism over creativity might banish their artistic, spontaneous self into the shadow. A boy raised in a culture of stoic masculinity will cast his vulnerability, his tenderness, and his capacity for awe into the darkness. Your shadow, therefore, is not a pit of evil. It is a treasure chest of your own rejected potential, your golden shadow. The psychological mechanism that maintains this prison is projection. The immense energy of these repressed qualities cannot be destroyed. It must go somewhere. So the psyche, in a cunning act of self-deception, projects this energy outward. It paints the world with the colors of its own disowned darkness. If you have repressed your own ambition, you will be surrounded by people you perceive as ruthlessly power-hungry. If you have denied your own sensuality, you will see depravity everywhere you look. This is the source of our most violent and irrational judgments. The people who trigger the most intense, visceral reaction in you are often holding up a mirror to the part of yourself you refuse to see. They are not your enemies. They are messengers from your own deep unconscious, pointing to the locked door in your cellar and screaming, "Look here! This part of you is desperate for attention." This psychological self-mutilation is reinforced by a deep philosophical tradition. Friedrich Nietzsche diagnosed this as the poison of a slave morality. He argued that for centuries we have been taught to see the vital, powerful, and instinctive parts of human nature as evil. Ambition, pride, the will to dominate one's own circumstances, these were relabeled as sins. In their place, we were taught to value meekness, humility, and obedience. This moral framework, Nietzsche claimed, was created by the weak to restrain the strong. It is a value system that champions the herd animal and fears the lone eagle. In this light, the war against your shadow is a war against your own inner eagle. It is an attempt to clip your own wings because you have been taught that flying too high is a sin. Your shadow is where your will to power, your innate biological drive to grow, overcome, create, and become is held captive. By denying it, you are not becoming more good, you are becoming less alive. You are domesticating the wolf within you until all that remains is a well-behaved dog waiting patiently for its master's approval.
This ancient philosophical error has found its perfect modern expression in the cult of toxic positivity. Our society has commercialized the idea of the flawless white room. The self-help industry, social media influencers, and even corporate wellness programs bombard us with the mandate to be happy, to think positive, to eliminate negativity. This relentless pressure creates an environment where authentic human emotions are treated as pathologies. Sadness is a chemical imbalance to be corrected. Anger is a toxic energy to be cleansed. Fear is a limiting belief to be affirmed away. We are encouraged to paper over the cracks in our soul with hollow affirmations and inspirational quotes, all while the foundations continue to rot from the inside. This isn't enlightenment, it's emotional anesthetic. It is the modern-day version of Huxley's Soma, a drug that keeps us placid, manageable, and disconnected from the difficult, messy, and ultimately transformative truths of our own being. It teaches us to fear the very signals our psyche sends to alert us that something is wrong. Your anxiety is no longer a call to examine your life, it's a nuisance to be medicated. Your discontent is not a sign that you are living out of alignment with your soul, it's a failure of gratitude. This is the perfect storm that keeps you at war with yourself. Your psychology, driven by a primal need for acceptance, represses its own power. Your philosophy, inherited from a tradition that fears that power, gives you the moral justification to do so. And your society, addicted to comfort and superficiality, provides the endless distractions needed to ensure you never have to hear the scratching from below. The hidden problem, then, is that you are engaged in a battle you can never win for a prize that is not worth having. You are fighting to uphold the integrity of a mask while the face beneath it withers. You are trying to maintain the sterile perfection of the white room while the very foundations of the house are being eaten away. The thing in your basement is not your enemy, it is your estranged brother, your lost twin, your source of untamed power. And its constant, desperate scratching is not a threat. It is an invitation to a reunion that could either destroy you or finally make you whole. The unseen consequences of refusing this invitation are written into the very fabric of our lives, creating a world of quiet desperation that we have all learned to call normal. The consequences of this lifelong war against the self are not loud and catastrophic. They're quiet, corrosive, and seep into every corner of your existence. Refusing the shadow's invitation doesn't keep you safe. It traps you in a state of suspended animation, a life characterized by a chilling and persistent lack of depth. The unseen cost of maintaining that perfect white room is the hollowing out of your own humanity. The first and most immediate consequence is a profound loss of energy. Imagine a pot of water on a stove with a heavy lid clamped on top. The flame beneath is your life force, your vitality, the raw energy of your shadow. As the water heats, pressure builds. Your entire psychological system is then oriented around one single exhausting task, keeping that lid on. This is the source of the pervasive, unexplained fatigue that plagues modern life. It's not just your job or your schedule, it's the monumental round-the-clock effort of self-suppression. You feel drained because you are spending 90% of your energy holding yourself back. This is why you feel a flicker of life, a surge of vitality. In moments of crisis or intense emotion, the lid rattles, and for a second, some of the steam escapes. It's also why we are drawn to vicarious experiences, violent movies, dramatic television, extreme sports. We are outsourcing the expression of our own vitality to others because we are too afraid to feel it ourselves. This energy drain leads to the second consequence, a life of paralyzing indecision and creative sterility. True creativity, passion, and the courage to make bold life decisions do not come from the polite, rational persona. They erupt from the chaotic, instinctive, and untamed depths of the shadow. The shadow is where your gut feelings live, where your raw ambition churns, where your most original and unconventional ideas are born. When you sever your connection to this source, you are left with only the sterile logic of the conscious mind. You become a creature of pro and con lists, forever analyzing but never acting. You want to start the business, but your persona whispers 1,000 perfectly rational reasons why it might fail. You want to leave the relationship that is slowly killing you, but your persona calculates the logistical difficulties and social disapproval. You stand at a crossroads, able to see every path, but unable to feel which one is yours. You are creatively and existentially constipated, full of unexpressed potential that has no way to get out. Your life becomes a graveyard of good ideas and unpursued passions. The third, and perhaps most tragic consequence, is the utter demolition of authentic relationships. A person who is at war with their own shadow cannot truly connect with another human being. They can only connect with the other person's mask. Your relationships become a polite, sterile dance of two personas, each one carefully hiding their own scratching from the other. You present your polished, agreeable self, and you fall in love with their polished, agreeable self. But this is not intimacy. It is a shared delusion. You can never truly be seen because you are terrified of showing your whole self. And you can never truly see another because you are projecting your own disowned shadow all over them. This is why so many long-term relationships end with the bewildered complaint, "I don't even know who you are anymore." The truth is, they never did. They only knew the carefully curated representative you sent in your place. Real intimacy requires that you allow someone to see the messy, chaotic, and unacceptable parts of you, and that you have the courage to see theirs without judgment. It requires you to be able to sit with their anger, their sadness, their envy, not to fix it, but to witness it. But if you cannot even witness these things in yourself, how can you possibly hold space for them in another? You cannot. Instead, you will demand that they, too, keep their shadow locked away. Your relationships become unspoken contracts of mutual repression, devoid of the very fire and friction that forges a truly unbreakable bond. Finally, the refusal of the shadow leads to a state of profound moral and spiritual stagnation. A person who denies their own capacity for darkness cannot be truly good. They can only be naive. True compassion is not born from a pristine innocence that has never known a hateful thought. It is forged in the heart of a person who has looked their own capacity for cruelty square in the eye and has consciously chosen a different path. True strength is not the absence of fear, it is the courage to act in spite of it. By creating a self-image of pure, unblemished goodness, you render yourself spiritually fragile. You become a weight-robed innocent, easily shattered by the first encounter with real-world ambiguity or personal failure. You are prone to shattering disillusionment and self-righteous judgment because your moral framework has no room for the messy, contradictory reality of human nature. Your goodness is brittle because it has never been tested in the fires of your own internal hell. You are left in your perfect white room, but the room has become a prison. You are safe, but you are not alive. You are good, but you are not whole. You are surrounded by people, but you are profoundly alone. The scratching from beneath the floorboards, which you once perceived as a threat, now starts to sound like something else entirely. It is the sound of everything you have sacrificed for the sake of an illusion. It is the sound of your own life, unlived, begging to be let in. The unseen consequences have now become a felt reality. The quiet desperation has a name, and the only way out is not to build the walls higher, but to finally go down. The path to freedom does not lie in renovating the white room or soundproofing the floor. It lies in a courageous, deliberate, and often terrifying descent into the basement. This is the rebellion. It is a conscious rejection of the cult of perfection and a radical embrace of your own wholeness. This is not about becoming a darker person. It is about becoming a more complete one. The process is not one of exorcism, but of integration. It is the sacred art of shadow work. The first act of this rebellion is to stop running and start listening. You must become an archaeologist of your own soul, and your primary tool is ruthless self-honesty. You begin by paying attention to your triggers, those disproportionate emotional reactions you have to other people. The person at work whose ambition makes your skin crawl. The celebrity whose effortless confidence fills you with a strange and bitter envy. The acquaintance whose joyful, carefree attitude feels like a personal insult. These people are not your tormentors. They are your teachers. They are walking, talking projections of your own golden and dark shadows. Your homework is to look at the person who triggers you the most and ask the terrifying question, what aspect of this person lives in me that I have refused to acknowledge? This is not an intellectual exercise. It requires you to feel the uncomfortable truth in your body. The goal is not to approve of the trait, but simply to own it. To say, yes, that capacity for ruthless ambition also exists in me, is not to become a ruthless person. It is to reclaim the raw energy of ambition that you have disowned, energy that you can then choose to wield consciously and ethically. The second act of rebellion is to learn the language of your own unconscious. The shadow does not speak in clear, rational sentences. It speaks in the symbolic, primal language of dreams, fantasies, and slips of the tongue. You must become a dream catcher. Keep a journal by your bed and write down your dreams the moment you wake, before the conscious mind has a chance to sanitize them. Do not try to interpret them through a generic dream dictionary. Instead, sit with the images and the feelings. Who is the dark, menacing figure that chases you? It is likely a part of your own shadow self, begging for your attention. What is the beautiful, wild landscape you find yourself in? It could be a glimpse of your own untamed inner world. You must also pay attention to your daydreams and fantasies, especially the shameful or inappropriate ones. These are not commands to be acted upon. They are symbolic messages from your deep self, revealing your unmet needs, your repressed desires, and your hidden potentials. To listen to the fantasy of telling your boss exactly what you think is not to prepare for a career-ending outburst. It is to acknowledge a deep need for self-assertion and the reclamation of your own voice. The third and most active rebellion is the conscious and deliberate integration of a shadow trait. This is a delicate and powerful practice. Identify a quality you have long suppressed. Perhaps it's healthy anger. You've spent your life being the nice guy or the peacemaker, swallowing your own needs to avoid conflict. Integrating this shadow does not mean becoming an aggressive jerk. It means finding a safe, conscious container for that energy. It might mean taking a martial arts class to connect with your own physical power and aggression in a disciplined way. It might mean practicing setting small, firm boundaries with people in low-stakes situations. It means learning to say no without a lengthy apologetic explanation. You are taking the raw, repressed energy of anger and transmuting it into the noble, assertive energy of a healthy boundary.
Or perhaps you have repressed your inner artist, your spontaneous, playful self in favor of a responsible, serious persona. Integrating this golden shadow doesn't mean quitting your job to live in a commune. It means consciously scheduling time for purposeless play. Take an improv class, buy a sketchbook and draw badly just for the joy of it. Put on music and dance around your living room. You are intentionally creating a space for the neglected part of your soul to come out and breathe. With each act of conscious integration, you are not just alleviating the pressure in the basement, you are bringing back a lost piece of your own power, your own vitality, your own wholeness. You are literally remembering yourself, putting the dismembered parts back together. This work is not safe and it is not comfortable. As you begin to integrate your shadow, you will feel destabilized. The neat, clean categories of your black and white world will begin to blur into a messy, ambiguous gray. You will see your own capacity for ugliness more clearly than ever before, and it will be humbling. You will also see your own capacity for brilliance more clearly, and it will be terrifying. The rebellion against the persona is a lonely road. Your friends and family, accustomed to your predictable mask, may react with confusion or hostility to the more authentic, more complex person you are becoming. They might say, "You've changed," and it will not always be a compliment. This is the price of freedom. It is the necessary chaos that precedes a new and more authentic order. You are breaking the unspoken contract of mutual repression, and it will make the other prisoners uncomfortable. But you will also begin to feel something you haven't felt since childhood, a sense of coming home to yourself. The chronic exhaustion begins to lift, replaced by a deep, grounded energy. Your relationships will either deepen into true intimacy or fall away, revealing their superficiality. And the scratching from beneath the floorboards will begin to change. It will sound less like a monster and more like a trusted advisor, a source of profound wisdom, a teacher who has been waiting with infinite patience for you to finally be ready for the lesson. This is the alchemy that turns lead into gold, and it is the necessary preparation for the final, most liberating truth of all. You have undertaken the courageous descent. You have sat in the darkness of your own basement and listened to the whispers. You have begun the alchemical work of integrating the jagged, disowned pieces of your soul. The constant, draining civil war within you has quieted, replaced by a new, more integrated sense of self. You are no longer just the pristine statue in the white room. You are the statue, the monster, and the very house that contains them both. You feel a strength you never knew you possessed, a compassion rooted not in naivety, but in the profound understanding of your own complexity. But this newfound wholeness is the gateway to a final, shattering realization that will redefine your entire relationship with reality. The ultimate truth is not that you have a shadow. The ultimate truth is that you are the shadow. And you are also the light. The paradox of your existence is that you are and have always been both. The entire project of building a good self, a pristine persona, was based on a fundamental error of identity. You mistook one tiny, flickering flame of your consciousness, the ego, the I that you think you are, for the totality of the sun. You identified with the curated mask, and in doing so, you exiled the vast, powerful, and untamed universe that is your true nature. The final liberation is not in integrating the shadow into the self. It is the dissolution of the tiny, frightened self into the magnificent, whole, and paradoxical reality of what you have always been.
When this realization dawns, the very nature of morality is transformed. The question is no longer, how can I be a good person? That question presupposes a separate I that can choose to be one thing and not the other. The new question becomes, how can I be a conscious and responsible vessel for all that I am? It is the difference between a gardener who tries to eliminate all the weeds and insects and a gardener who understands that a healthy ecosystem requires a complex interplay of all its elements, the predators and the prey, the decay and the growth. Your job is not to purify your inner landscape. It is to become a wise and compassionate steward of its wild and complex totality. This is the ultimate freedom. When you no longer identify exclusively with the good parts of yourself, you are no longer terrified of the bad parts. The fear of being exposed as a fraud vanishes because you have already exposed yourself to yourself. You have faced your own inner monster and realized it is just as much a part of you as your inner saint. This grants you an unshakable, grounded authenticity. You no longer need to perform. You no longer need to pretend. You can simply be. In this state, your relationships with others are revolutionized. You can finally see people in their wholeness because you have finally accepted your own. You see their beautiful masks, and you also sense their scratching from below, and you feel not judgment, but a deep, resonant empathy. You understand that their cruelty is a symptom of their own disowned pain, that their arrogance is a shield for their own hidden insecurity. Your compassion becomes boundless because you recognize the same universal human dance of light and shadow playing out in them that is playing out in you. Look back now at the perfect white room. You see it for what it was: a mausoleum, a beautiful, polished tomb for a half-lived life. The ultimate truth is that you were never meant to live in that room. You are the entire house, with its sunlit parlors, its dusty attics, and its deep, dark earthen cellars. You are the whole thing. To waste your life is to live in one room, terrified of the rest of the house. To live your life fully is to explore every corner, to throw open every door, to light a candle in the darkest cellar and realize that the treasures hidden there were more valuable than anything you could ever display in the light. Your greatest teacher was never a guru on a mountaintop. It was the disowned, despised, and feared part of your own being. It was the monster in the basement. It was your shadow. And the final lesson it came to teach you was this: stop trying to be only the light. Stop trying to be only a fragment of your own magnificence. You are the whole night sky. You are the darkness that makes the stars visible. And only when you embrace that totality of that vast, dark, and beautiful emptiness will you ever truly understand what it means to shine.